The movement structure of each and every games and sports are unique. In football also the movements are varied. Coaches and the physical education teachers has the responsibility to make the players familiar with the movement required in the game of football so that they become successful or effective during the course of play. Technique is one of the most important element in football performance. Hence, today I shall confine my topic only on the development of technique. There are many ways and means applied for the development of technique of football. Exercise is one of the important means for the development of the technique. Specific techniques are being used for this specific purpose, keeping in mind the individual peculiarities and the demand of the game. As we all know that after the game starts, the cooperation or the understanding between the players can be linked only by the techniques such as the passing, kicking, shooting, heading, dribbling, controlling, goalkeeping, and so on. So all these things are linking between the players. To have better communication, we must also develop the technique up to that extent that the players are becoming effective, and during preparation care must be taken so that the players are being exposed time and again with various type of situations, various types of movements which they are likely to face during the course of play, and that will help them to take a prompt and effective decision without much wasting of time. If the coaches or the physical education teachers are not preparing their players well, these players may be becoming a stranger with the situation which they have not been exposed during training. Now, leaving aside the exercises, we will also refer here today the drills. Now, drills are nothing but a predetermined movement carried out by the players in order to develop understanding between the players. Of course, in drills, there is no scope for the player to take any decision. However, as the performance improves and the players are getting acquainted with the movement, obviously some other means should be used in order to continue the development or improvement of the players. So before stepping into the actual task or actual topic, we will discuss step by step about the exercises or the specific exercises, what it means. Exercises are, as I said earlier, are nothing but a set of physical movement, keeping in mind the demand of the player. This may be, no two individuals are same, and the same load or same movement or the same exercise may affect in a different way to two different individuals. So, as a coach, we must also look into the interest of the player so that each and every player improves according to their level of perception. Here you can see exercise has been designed where the players are divided into 4 groups, and inside there are 2 players. They used to get the ball rebounded from the players who are standing in 4 corners. Now after the return, they will again dribble or run with the ball. Then whosoever is free, he will get the ball returned, and it will continue. When these players who are here are returning the ball 4 times, for example, 5th time they will come inside, and the player who has passed the ball or dribbled so long, he will take position at the back of the group. Simultaneously, one more player, he will start with the other ball, he will pass the ball directly to the next group and follow. This player again, after taking control over the ball, he will pass the ball and follow. This will continue from the back side, and inside the players will dribble, pass and get the ball return. This movement we can also use for the warm-up purpose. Whereas the drills are a set of predetermined sequence of movements carried out by the players in order to develop understanding between the players or a group of players. These movements are more or less resembling to the game-like situation, or this type of drills help the players to develop better understanding between the group of players. As soon as the players are improving their performance, now it is the time for the coach to move to the next stage. That means degree of difficulty should be increased. This exercise, for example, here again it is simple but slightly difficult than the previous one. Here two players are starting their movement with ball, that is the passing. One is from the position A, other one from the position G. Now the movement will be from A to B, B to C, C to D. In the other group, G to H, H to E, E to F. Everybody will follow except these two fellows, that is who is positioning in F and who is positioning in D. D will move to the other group in position of G after making pass. Similarly, F, after making a pass, instead of following the ball, he will switch on to the other group in the position of A. This type of exercises help the players to gain some experience as well as follow a certain guidelines, or during the course of play, the players will have to carry it out. It's not that rigid action, but the players are learning one after the other to memorize their movements, so that during the course of play, if such situation arises, they can take the decision at their own without the help of anybody else. Certain points which a coach should remember. First and foremost thing is to understand the psychology of the children. At the same time, how much stress is on each child. That stress may be mental, may be physical. Due to the changed socio-economic condition, the children are very much stressed right from the childhood. The time for the child to play the game is very, very less. So there is a lot of pressure. Now when they are coming to the field, a coach must understand how much pressure, how much the stress is on the child. Keeping that in mind, we should prepare our players for the future. Sometimes the students or the children are also fall under the orbit of stress due to the complexity of the exercise or the technique itself. So whenever we are designing our training curriculum, training program, we must see that the complexity of the technique or its execution should match the level of the players. This level means their age, their training age, their experience, and also the sex. The coach should be very, very careful to keep the environment or the surrounding wherever he is practicing or he is exposing the players are conducive for learning. There should be no fear in the mind of the children or the players to be weeded out or be dropped out, because the children are coming here to learn. If they are afraid that if I am not in a position to execute the technique correctly, I may be dropped out, this fear should not be there, because the main aim of all the coaches, of course, is to prepare a player to develop the performance. But it is not the fact that every player or every child will improve or excel in the field of sports or in the field of football. Even if he is not becoming an excellent football player, no matter, at least we must try that he is becoming a good citizen of the country. He should have good health, good mind, and he should be able to move in the society in a dignified manner. But it is better if we can select a technique which the player has the experience to execute it previous time. That means there should be a link with the previous exercise or previous technique to the next one. We should not jump from one to the another, because the coaches are to ensure that the players are improving. There should be variety in the training itself, and accordingly we are to select sequence of exercises so that it becomes progressive. The players are not getting fumbled while executing the next stage of the technique training. In addition to that, sufficient time must be given to the players to repeat the exercise again and again. And we must not be hurriedly moving from one exercise to the other one or one stage to the other one without giving enough time to the players to repeat the exercises for a considerable time. As we also know it, that the players are not relishing the practice of technique because it becomes after some time monotonous. So some gap in the form of rest or active rest must be inserted in between two exercises so that the players are not getting tired. Next, we must think that while executing or including a technique, we must see that the players are repeating the correct technique, not the wrong one, right technique in the right perspective, so that in the long run they can improve it even further, or they must not face any difficulties due to the practice of the wrong technique in the preparatory phases. Now, once the players are in a position to do or execute the technique, now we must also give some time for adaptation so that they become very much acquainted with the technique, and they should be in a position to execute that technique later on whenever they are being asked to do so. As we all know it, during the practice of technique particularly, the coach used to select or design the nature of the movement or the technique. Now, the coach knows what is its utility or what is its effectiveness or how the players will be using that one during the course of actual competition. But the players are not in a position to link that one. Now, this is the task or the responsibility of the coach to make the players understand why this technique is being practiced here and what is its relevance with the actual match performance. Then only the players will take interest in practicing the one and they will develop it as well, because our preparation is not for today, the preparation is for future. Now the players who are here, they might be ready for the match or competition after 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. The coach must also foresee what will be the demand at that time when the player or the concerned player will be ready for the game. Keeping that in mind, we must prepare our players. Otherwise, the players will not be able to be effective during the course of actual competition. So, the coach must time and again expose the players with different situations, different exercises, different movements with different type of opponents, so that the players are getting experience, and that experience they will be able to utilize during the course of play if done appropriate way. Another important aspect on the part of the coach is to remember that each and every individual needs some sort of recognition. Now, if we do not recognize the individual player as individual, then that will hurt its sentiment, and at the same time we will not be able to educate and prepare each and every player effectively. So we cannot have a ready-made recipe, or we cannot have a dictionary where we can find out the solution. So what happened? We as coaches must prepare each and every player according to their individual peculiarities, individual differences. While imparting coaching, it is advisable that the coach is or coach should face the group so that the players can see the face of the coach. At the same time, the coach can see the players' movement, whether they are attending him, they are listening him, or they are realizing him. And at the same time, the coach realizes whether whatever he is communicating is acceptable or the players are in a position to understand. That perceptibility of the players he can understand when he faces the group. Here, one thing is important. Facing does not mean that he will be close to the group. Facing means the entire group should be in front of his eyes so that he can observe each and every player minutely. If we do not face, or the coach is not facing, or he is facing somewhere else, the impact of the learning will not be there. One more important thing is, whenever the coach is explaining maybe sequence of movements, he should use simple but loud enough. Simple language, and his voice should be loud enough so that the players can listen. Not the front line boys, whosoever in the back line, they should also be in a position to understand what the coach is telling or communicating. Now, at the end of the exercise, or when the session is coming to an end, he should brief what he has undertaken, what is its benefit, relevance, and what he could not achieve. Means how the players have reacted to it, how the players were in a position to perform the activity, and how much they could not do it, why they could not do it, and what is his future plan. So that next day, whenever the players are coming, they are mentally prepared to carry out those movements. Now, in the process, if the players are asking certain questions or any doubt, it is the responsibility of the coach to make it clear. The players should not go without the clarification. However, it is not expected that the coach will be able to satisfy each and every question. It may so happen some question, some delicate points are there which the coach himself also may not be aware of. It may so happen. So in that case, he should tell frankly, confess frankly, well, boy, I don't know this. Tomorrow I'll refer the thing and let you know. Under all circumstances, the doubt of the players must be clarified. And whenever the players are going home, it should be like that the players are happily living. They must learn something new. It is not that they are coming, practicing and going back. They must also understand what is the benefit of the time they have spent during the session. Now, the first and foremost thing for the players to remember is to orientate the situation. What is the environment, how the ball is coming, whether it is low, it is high, or to whom you are going to make a pass. All these things, but that is the entire situation should be taken into consideration. Once they have observed the situation, now next step is to take a decision on the basis of the observation or the judgment. The players should take a decision. That decision should be correct and it should be as fast as possible. Next step is to have movement, and this movement should be precise. That means it should be economical as well as it should be effective. Now, once we are moving or the players are moving for the execution of the technique is to align the body. If the alignment of the body is right, it's quite natural, the subsequent action will be correct. Now, once you have aligned your body, you have to execute, then the important thing is the first touch. This first touch particularly at the time of controlling the ball. It should prepare for the next or subsequent movement. It is very important. Now, this first touch will be correct only when our alignment is correct and our approach is at the nick of time. The next important aspect is the execution of the technique. Now, it should also be done at the right time. To make this execution correct, the body as well as the part of the body which is going to execute the technique should be form an angle so that we can execute the technique efficiently. Now, when we talk about the passing, in that case, not only this should be done at the nick of time, it should be in the right direction. Here, the direction means the direction in which player to whom you are passing the ball, it is in that direction, so that there is no breakdown of his movement or the rhythm of movement. If the player is forcing to break his rhythm, that means we are taxing our own teammate to waste his energy. Moreover, this will cause the movement slower, which is not advisable nor desirable. And the important aspect in this execution of technique is accuracy. Now, here accuracy does not mean we are sending the ball into the hole as it is done in golf. Here in football, the accuracy means it must be done in the right direction, right time, with adequate speed or velocity, whatever you call it, so that the ball is reaching with adequate force to the player to whom we are passing it. Now, this accuracy, of course, not only alone important in passing, it is equally important in controlling the ball. And in controlling, again, we are controlling the ball economically. There is no doubt in this if all other things are correct. But here we must ensure that we are bringing the ball under control away from the opponent. This is one. Second, our first touch should give a new direction in which we are supposed to move. Whether we are moving or we are taking a shot at the goal or whatever we are making a pass, that is to be done efficiently and effectively, so that whenever we are bringing the ball under control, we are facing as little challenge from our opponent. As far as the kicking is concerned, the coaches should remember certain points which will help them to identify the problems or the faults, rectify them, and in turn their training will be much more effective. First, we have to bifurcate the technique. First is the approach. Now, approach, it may be straight, it may be diagonal, depending upon the nature of the technique. We are to see as a coach whether his approach or the approach of the player concerned is adequate or not. Does it favor for the next movement or not? These are the things should be taken care of. Now, if the players are not in a position to approach the ball in a proper fashion, or there is a breakdown in between, then the player will lose either the power behind the ball or he might be using the muscles, and in the process he might be injuring his muscles if not developed properly. Now, once we have approached, next step is the placement of the standing leg. It may be we have to see it, what type of technique the player is going to execute, whether it is a low ball, whether it is a high ball. Depending on this, he has to manipulate his placement of standing leg or balancing leg. Knee of the balancing leg should be slightly flexed. Reason being, we have to shift our body weight to the balancing or non-playing leg, and the entire balance of the body will rest on the balancing leg or the non-playing leg. So it should be slightly flexed. That will help to bring his CZ lower and lower the CG, better the stability. Along with this, the coach must ensure that the alignment of the body is proper. The upper part, for example, it should be leaning slightly forward or to the side depending upon the nature of the kick. As I said earlier, the CG should be slightly lower, and in some cases it may be adjusted according to the nature of the technique to be executed. The playing leg, you have to see whether the playing leg is prepared properly, because the last stride, if you are giving longer, that will automatically help the playing leg to be swinged. There is no need to first place and then swing it. This time should be saved, because time is very precious for football player, because if one can execute the pass momentarily earlier, he will get the advantage, or otherwise he may lose the favorable situation. In all sorts of kick, as I said earlier, we have to ensure that the ankle are tight. It can be loose only at the time of controlling the ball. Otherwise, there is no question of keeping the ankle loose. Now, trunk and shoulder also influences the quality of the kick. If it is twisted, not perpendicular to the direction of the intended kick, obviously the ball will be moving away from the target. So this will give an indication to make it perpendicular to the intended pass. Now this is for the forward one. Now when we are to make backward, or say for example overhead volley, then what will happen, if the shoulder is not kept perpendicular, the ball will be deviated, or will not get the proper contact with the ball. Now contact, as we all know it, is important for effective or the correct execution of the technique. Now as a coach, we have to see whether the contact is in the right place or not. This is one. Second thing is, we have to ensure why it is not been contacted properly, where the fault was. As a coach, one should be very, very careful in this to identify the root of the problem. Now, sometimes it may so happen that experience shows that the players are not in a position to get the contact with the ball, maybe due to the longer approach run. It may so happen by reducing the approach run to 2 to 3 steps, the player concerned is getting proper contact. And once he is accustomed to get the proper contact, gradually we can increase the approach run as it is required. Follow through is important, but some players are scared of this because the movement structure is not clear to these players. In that case, either they are making too aggressive follow through, or they are restricting their follow through. That is to be ensured the follow through should be proper, and it should not be across the body. That is to be looked into. And eyes, said earlier, eyes momentarily at the time of contact with the ball should be on the ball, otherwise it should be in and around. That means the peripheral view of the players should be as wide as possible. And of course, the player must maintain his balance. He must not lose his balance while executing a technique. Coming to the controlling, for proper controlling, the first and foremost thing is to judge the either flight or the speed of the oncoming ball, whether it is coming on the ground, whether it is coming from in air, from front, from side, everything. The player must judge the oncoming ball. On the basis of his judgment, obviously, he has to take a quick and correct decision. Again, once you have taken a decision, whether you are using chest, using thigh, using sole, using inside of the foot, or any other part, that is to be decided first. However, the players, those who are experienced or having lot of technical abilities, to execute, they may be in a position to change his decision even at the last moment, if at all it requires to. So, move, decide fast, move and align your body in such a way that the controlling or bringing the ball under control becomes easier or economical. Now, for this, the body part the player is going to use it should form an angle with the oncoming ball, and this angle must be appropriate. Once the angle is there, ball is coming, where to stand, where to form it, where the ball is about to reach. If it is in the ground, then one step ahead. If it is in the air, where the ball is about to land on the ground. Keeping that in mind, we have to align our body, form an angle, and as soon as the ball comes close, we must use that part, either which we have decided or the player concerned has decided, or the part which is close to the ball. The trunk again should be leaning mostly forward, and the standing leg should be slightly flexed at the knee. Once we are coming in contact with the ball, as far as the controlling is concerned, our next task is to give cushion to absorb the pace of the ball. It should normally correspond to the ball at which it is approaching, but this is for the beginning or for the practice. As the players are getting accustomed to it, or the players are becoming matured, they are improving their performance, or in elite level, normally the players are not rigidly following the principle. This is only principle means guideline. There will be slight deviation from the basic principle, because we are also happy as a coach. Why? Because we want that execution of the technique should be effective. So we must not be very much prejudiced why you have not followed the principle or whatever. We need effective execution of the technique. That's all. Only thing, we must make the players understand that why we are advocating this principle, what are the benefits of it, and slight adjustment we advise based on individual peculiarities. Now, some drills, not all, we will discuss or slightly elaborate simple drills which are easy to carry out and at the same time simple. This one, you can see 3 players are divided into 2, maybe a distance of 5 meters. Now, wherever the 2 players are there, they make a pass and follow. This fellow returns and follows, continues. Very simple. This is slightly difficult. Here, players are divided into 4 groups, to each it may be more even. Now, 2 teams or from 2 sides the practice starts, one here, one here. They are moving 2-3 yards with the ball and then making a pass and follow it and take position at the back of this group. Similarly, this fellow also starts moving few steps, pass the ball, follow. Simple. And they will, after pass, he will take the position at the back of this group. Very simple. Now, these are only a simple or very small models. These are not all. Certain exercises, certain drills which are used in preparing the football players. On the basis of these ideas, all the coaches or the physical education teachers may design their training curriculum so that their training become effective. Thank you very much.